Hello there guys, RMP792 here. Right, I'm finally getting around to doing this vlog on episodes 8 and 9 of Star Trek Discovery. I have been meaning to do this for bloody ages, and it just kept slipping, and as a result I technically did these vlogs out of sync. So the episode 10 one is up, and episode 11 is now available on Netflix, but I haven't actually watched it yet, so you don't need to worry about me potentially spoiling anything from episode 11. Okay? So, Star Trek Discovery episodes 8 and 9. Episode 8 is... There's kind of not a lot to it, if I'm brutally honest. Outside of a genuinely quite interesting bit, a performance from Doug Jones, the rest of the episode just is there. The main subplot of that episode really is finding out what happened to the Admiral after she got captured. Namely, she's been on on the ship of the dead, and presumably getting interrogated. So L'Rell turns up and basically swears her loyalty and and shows off her bitching new face scars, which she got after, I think it was Lorca who fired a disruptor slightly closer to her head than she was probably comfortable with. Yeah, but again, she's a Klingon. Klingons get battle scars, and it doesn't bother them at all. As she says, they are. I will wear them with honor, and they were earned in battle. So, as long as it's not a crippling injury, Klingons don't care about scars. Some of them will actually show them off as oh yes, I was fighting this worthy foe, and he managed to do this to me right before I cut his head off. Sort of situation. So that's not uncommon in a lot of sort of slightly warriorish cultures, both real and, in particular, fictional. Going to Warhammer for a second, there's an entire chapter of Space Marines called the White Scars, who are really into their scars, provided they're sort of earned properly in battle. So, it's a thing that turns up a lot. So, L'Rell basically promises to go and interrogate the Admiral, and obviously she does not like or trust Cole, and she wants to screw him over. So she's basically working on helping the Admiral escape to... I'm assuming her plan is to have Cole lose face in some way, probably. But, either way, she fakes the Admiral's death and chucks her in with the corpse pile, and that's pretty much all, all you get there. Which is... It's fine, for what it is. It's... I'll be honest, the character of the Admiral is interesting. And the extent to which, did Lorca put her into that situation knowing something was going to happen to her and then deliberately not try to rescue her because she was, did he not try to rescue her because what she said to him got through? Or did he not try to rescue her because he knows that when she got back to Starfleet, she was almost certainly going to try and take his ship away from him? I don't know. I genuinely can't tell. And that's kind of the most interesting character thing going on this show at the moment, of how crazy is Lorca. Because I'll be honest, I'd be surprised if Lorca ends up staying captain in the long run. Which is a shame, because I like Jason Isaacs as an actor, and he's giving a really interesting performance here. But Lorca, the problem with Lorca is he comes across too much as... Actually, he reminds me of Decker. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but Commodore Decker in the Doomsday Machine, whose entire... the plot of the Doomsday Machine is basically Kirk and the Enterprise come across another Constitution-class ship, and incidentally, in the last vlog I referred to it as a Constellation-class ship, which is wrong. My apologies. Constellation-class ships are a completely different thing. I used to make that mistake a lot because Constellation class, and then later there's the Galaxy class, which is why I used to make that mistake until I got a bit more nerdy and pissy about these things. So not sure why I cocked that up last week, but anywho. But yes, so they come across another Constitution class ship. I can't remember why can I not remember the name of the ship in the Doomsday Machine? I watched it fairly recently as well. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yes, and there's nobody alive aboard it, apart from Commodore Decker. And you basically found out the reason that everybody's dead is that the ship was getting the crap kicked out of it, so he ordered them to abandon ship down to this planet, and he stayed behind. But once the ship wasn't a threat anymore, the weapon that had been attacking the ship basically just moved on and destroyed the entire planet, and there was bugger all he could do about it. So his entire crew got wiped out because he made a mistake. And it's basically driven him a bit on the crazy side to the point where he basically ends up ramming into the weapon with a shuttle, which achieves precisely Dick, but does give them an idea for how to actually destroy it, namely by ramming his ship into it. So that does actually work. But yes, so that's what Lorca reminds me of at the moment. He's driven by his failure, and it's kind of tipping him over the edge of sanity. So I genuinely suspect that Lorca's probably going to die at the end of this season. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen. I'm just saying it could well. Yeah, which I'm honestly not sure about. So yeah, the theoretical main plot of this episode is basically that Michael, Tyler, and Saru have been sent down to this planet because there's some crystalline tower thing and the whole planet vibrates, and somehow this is going to let them get through cloaking technology. The implication of the episode is they're going to use it as a sort of sonar, as if it's sound waves. And that cannot be right, because granted, they've already shown in the show they don't understand how light works, because there's they mentioned that the Klingon beacon uses lumens. It's got a force over whatever lumens, and somehow that spreads across the galaxy instantly. And no, that is not how that works. If you'd said it was propagating tachyon particles through subspace, yeah, that would have been fine. It's it's technical nonsense, but you're Star Trek. You always use technical nonsense. It's your thing. You can, all you have to say is it's a swanky tech beacon, it did a weird thing, and now this is the consequence. That's fine. To quote SF Debris, all I'm asking for is for you to be consistent with your nonsense. But, yes. But anyway, so the implication is it's going to use sound waves in some way, which is patently stupid because, I would like to remind everyone, sound doesn't travel in space. Sound is caused by vibrations in particles bouncing off each other and transmitting those vibrations on. There's no particles in space. Or, okay, that's not strictly true. There is matter in space, but it's so it's spread so thin and far apart that there might as well not be. For all practical purposes, you'll bump into the odd bit of space dust and and that kind of stuff, and the odd particle, but not enough to actually propagate sound. So before anybody gets pedant, on me. So yes, if you're in a nebula, yeah, you could probably use some sort of sonar-based tech because, if the gases are dense enough, you could easily propagate sound waves through them. That's a thing you could do. But in regular space, and especially over the distances they're talking about, no, can't be done. Yeah, so they find that this planet is, has some sort of, strange new life form that we've never seen before. That when I first saw it, I thought it was actually something related to the mycelial network. I thought it was those spores because it had a very similar effect. And it was going to turn out that they were sentient and that they'd been, burning them as a fuel source, and that was going to be why they stopped using this spore drive. But no, nothing to do with that. It's just some alien race, and Saru's ultra heightened senses are basically going ballistic on this planet, so it's not fun for him. And he goes through a bit of a weird psychological thing where I'm genuinely not sure what the hell was supposed to be up with him. I think it was a case of he finally found calm somewhere on that planet, as a result of these creatures, and he just did not want to lose that because the entire nature of his species, because they are prey, they learn to be basically constantly afraid and constantly on the lookout for things that are trying to hurt them. So to suddenly actually feel completely calm for pretty much the first time in his life was overwhelming. It was a religious experience to all intents and purposes, and he didn't want to lose it. And the fact that there hasn't been any consequences for it feels kind of jank. Given that they've been trying to push this more as a slightly serialized show. So But no, it was fine acting from Doug Jones, but it just was not a terribly good or terribly interesting episode. Is the honest way to describe it. It didn't feel like much of import happened beyond the stuff with the Admiral. And you could have fit that in pretty much anywhere. So no, not a great episode overall. Then we've got episode 9. And episode 9 is a really good finale to a show we haven't actually seen. That is the best way I can describe it. Episode 9, I think it was episode 9, the last one before the mid-season break, feels like there was about 10 episodes in there that we... Basically, if this had been the finale of Season 1, the grand finale of Season 1, and we'd had like 10 more episodes in there, 10 to 12 more episodes, so you got the total number of episodes for the season up to 20, 23, something like that. And those 10 episodes were devoted entirely to, forging bonds amongst the crew, showing the crew going from scientists and people who barely know how to hold a phaser to people willing to stand up and fight for what they believe in. Give us more time to get to know the minor characters. So the various members of the bridge crew whose names I still don't bloody know. All this kind of stuff that Lorca talks about having happened. This would have been a really great finale to the season. As it stands, it feels like it's kind of coming a bit out of nowhere. And it's not like you can assume there's a time jump between that episode and the following one, because at the end of the previous episode, the aliens basically send out a signal to the Klingons to try and do what the Organians end up doing later and tell the two sides to just stop being children and grow the hell up. So that's pretty much what the Organians do to end the human Klingon war later. But yes, so what basically happens is the ship of the dead is coming, and why it's that particular ship and no one else, I don't know, but oh well. And Lorca gets ordered to withdraw from the planet and return to Starbase whatever. And for the first time in the entire show, Lorca acts like a Starfleet captain. Because his tactic of, okay, what we're going to do is unfortunately, we're having a wee bit of trouble with the spore drive, so we're going to use our warp engines to head back to the starbase. We don't want to tax the spore drive too much, because if we lose it, that would be very, very bad. So you come up with a reason why I can't use my spore drive. I'm worried about the health of the pilot, and I'll to double check. Perfect. And I'll be, at which point his plan is to basically just immediately leap back as soon as the ship of the dead arrives and say bollocks to our orders. And here's the thing. That's exactly what I would have expected out of a Starfleet captain. Kirk would have done it, Picard would have done it, Janeway would have done it, Sisko would have done it, Archer would have done it. Every one of the major Starfleet captains would have done the exact same thing in this situation, and that's why, for the first time, it feels like something Lorca should have done as a Starfleet captain. It really is. And again, if there'd been character development for Lorca over the course of the show, where he's gone from complete and utter hard ass to starting to understand that Starfleet ideology, that there's a reason why Starfleet has the ideals it does, and bit of slow growth, and maybe an episode devoted to him having to deal with some of the trauma related to the loss of his previous ship, that would have been, it would have been a good culmination of all that building up to, he starts off deeply flawed, and at the end of the season, he is a Starfleet captain. He's a Starfleet captain again, and he hasn't really been ever since, not since the destruction of his previous ship and the death of his previous crew. But previous episodes not set that up well enough. So they come up with a plan to basically fight the ship of the dead, but the problem is, of course, it's got the cloaking technology. So they come up with a crazy plan to do 143 jumps, I think it is. And side note, why wasn't it 147? It's Star Trek. Why isn't the number 47 cropping up? Anyway, that's a weird thing that the number 47 turns up in Star Trek a lot. It started off as just this weird thing, and then the writers started doing it on purpose because it was fun. It's random. It's never really anything plot crucial. they'll fly through an area and they pick up a signal on a frequency of 140, 1347, or something like that. It's not anything that's actually relevant to the plot in any significant way. It's just a cute little thing that the number 47 turns up a lot. Right down to the fact that there's a show called Alias in which the number 47 turns up a lot as well, and I'm like 95% sure that was a Star Trek in joke by somebody. But yes, so they come up with this absolutely insane plan to basically sneak aboard the ship of the dead, plant some sensor pod transmitter whatevers at near the front and near the back. And then they'll perform 143, I think it was, very rapid jumps around the ship in different, to different places, so they can basically scan the entire ship, get readings from those sensors, and use that to figure out an algorithm that will let them see through the Klingon cloaking technology. Which is all well and good. It's the kind of crazy technobabble that Star Trek loves. And so Michael and Tyler, beam over to the Klingon ship, and then Tyler starts getting PTSD. Again, should have set this up a bit more coming up to that. But, I mean, to be fair, what really triggers it is seeing L'Rell, which, given that she was his torturer, we do, it does sort of make sense that would be what kicks it off, but. And, of course, this was the episode that confirmed the theory that we all had pretty much since he turned up, that Tyler is a Klingon spy. However, it did something I wasn't expecting, in that Tyler didn't know that he's a Klingon spy. He is Vok, but he's had his entire personality overlaid with the Ash Tyler personality, and he's been surgically altered. And as a result, he genuinely does not realise who he is. And the flashbacks he's getting that he thinks are to his torture sessions are clearly to the surgery that turned him human. So that was an interesting place to take it. What we didn't need was the Klingon rape scene. We really didn't need that, Discovery. I get you're trying to be edgy, but don't do that again. We did not need... and I'll freely admit, having one of the male characters be effectively a rape survivor is a genuinely different thing to do. 99% of the time when TV shows and films talk about rape, they talk about female victims. Now, statistically speaking, the majority of rape victims in the real world are female. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to men. So, having a male rape survivor be a character is something new and different, and good is absolutely the wrong word, but it's when you're talking about drama, I don't think anything should be off limits. But if you're going to do something like that, you have to do it sensitively and you have to handle it right. And this show's teetering on the edge of a bit too far. That the actual flashback to it happening was a bit much. I don't think it's crossed any sort of irretrievable lines yet, but it's pushing its luck in a few ways. Trying to be edgy. But yeah, so Tyler basically has a bit of a breakdown when he sees L'Rell in the Chamber of the Dead along with the Admiral, and and the Admiral manages to snap him out of it a little bit, but sort of not really. I mean, she is meant to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something in that general ballpark. So the two of them eventually manage to get beamed out, and Michael basically ends up having to distract Cole. I'm still not 100% sure how it's pronounced because I've only ever heard it pronounced while I've been talking Klingon, and it just gets lost, in the gibberish. And yes, I know Klingon is a proper language that nerds spent years actually making up, but at the same time, it was so nice when she put the universal translator down, and the Klingons suddenly started speaking English, and you're like, oh yeah, these people can actually act and emote and show a range of emotions when they're not talking complete drivel. So yeah, should have just been speaking English pretty much from the start. As I said in the first episode, first couple of lines in Klingonese, transition over, maybe go behind somebody's head or something like that, and then they start speaking English, and the audience is smart enough to intuit that that means they're still speaking Klingon, but it's being translated for the sake of the audience. That would have been fine. But, yes, so she basically does the only sensible thing she can. She has to distract him so he doesn't leave before the scanning sequence is complete. So she challenges into a one-on-one fight on the grounds that she killed their messiah. So, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Now, granted, she shot the messiah in the back, but the thing about Klingons is they're not picky. If it's a fight and you turn your back on your opponent long enough to get stabbed in it, it's your own bloody fault. What did you think was going to happen? There's a lovely bit in a Dax-focused story in DS9 where it's her 3 elderly Klingons and they're basically going into this facility run by a guy named the Albino. And she basically has him defeated, but can't quite bring herself to murder a helpless opponent. At which point, one of the other Klingons just knifes him in the back and thanks her for saving the killing blow for him. Because that's genuinely the way he saw it. She was saving the killing blow for her friend. It's an interesting little episode that kind of delves into Klingon notions of honor and psychology and all that kind of stuff. And again, if you haven't seen DS9, watch DS9. First couple of seasons are a bit iffy, but once it gets going, it gets really good. So so she fights him. And they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight. And I really kind of want somebody to, at some point, take that scene and just dub over the old da 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 da. The Star Trek fight music, because the original series' fight music is great. I love the original series fight music. But yes, so they fight for a bit, and she's going to lose. You can pretty much guarantee that, because again, don't take on Klingons in hand to hand if you don't have to. But she gets a couple of good licks in, and then skedaddles, because they get beamed out, and then the Discovery basically fires a boatload of torpedoes into the ship and then destroys it, which is all well and good. So the ship of the dead's been destroyed. They have the cloaking algorithm stuff they need, and Stamets at this point is pretty seriously taxed by what he's gone through, and he started having weird memory problems and flashes and goodness knows what else as a result of what's happened to him. And obviously that they all feel and Lorca basically says to him that they'll get there by warp. They don't need to risk using the spore drive to jump home. But Stamets' attitude is no, I'll do one more jump for you, and then that's it. Then I'm stopping. And obviously that jump goes wrong, and they end up in what they jump over and end up in what turns out to be a parallel universe, which is all all well and good. Again, this would have been a really good finale if it wasn't for the fact it doesn't feel earned. So yes, Stamets in this episode is actually kind of interesting because, again, there's a really nice scene between him and Lorca where Lorca admits that every time they use the spore drive, he's been gathering as much information as he can. Because on some level, he is still a Starfleet captain. He is still an explorer. Because you can get into the, is Star Trek military debate all you want? Or is Starfleet military? Starfleet is an exploratory force that is prepared to fight when it has to. Now, does that make it military in nature? Does that make it something else? Starfleet is military, but that doesn't mean that combat is their primary purpose, is the best way I can describe it. They have a military command structure, they have ranks, and they follow basic military protocols. Well, okay, they follow some military protocols, they don't follow all of them. And in time of war, they are called upon to fight. But that doesn't mean that that's all that they are, to all intents and purposes. They're a bit more general purpose to all intents and purposes, is the best way I can think to describe it, which doesn't really sum it up, but you sort of know what I don't feel like I'm explaining this very well, but the whole point is Starfleet itself has never been really that well defined in terms of what it is. in that regard, because we know that Jean always had a bit of an anti-military bent. But there are times when you need structure, you need organization, and the military is often the sort of most straightforward way to achieve that sort of thing. So ultimately that's what Starfleet is. They are a military, but one whose primary purpose is not to fight. Just one that is prepared to when the time comes. So overall, episode 8's kind of inconsequential. Episode 9 is really quite good, but doesn't feel earned. Is the best way to describe it. So that is my thoughts on episodes 8 and 9 of Discovery. And then you've already heard episode 10, and episode 11 is up now. So that's basically all I got for now. I'll be recording my thoughts on episode 11 after I've seen it, which will be this evening. So I'll record that tomorrow morning. So about 24 hours from now-ish, you should be able to hear my thoughts on that. And until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in future vlogs.